Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Stay Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and joining me, my host companion, Sejan Sarwick. Sejan?
Hey, everybody, what's going on?
Not much. Before we get too deep into the episode, I have a recantation. Is that? I don't think that's a word, but I don't want to say a retraction. From the earlier episode, last week's episode, our 250th episode, with a title that's too long for me to remember right now. All the 250 titles I could find that had semi-relevance to that episode wound up in that title. But the more important thing is, on last week's episode, I said that Muppet is a portmanteau of marionette and puppet. And that is, I mean, on one level, I feel like it's technically true. Right? I don't...
What do you mean technically true? Because the issue that I took with that statement, and I will give it to you now, is that the Muppets are not marionettes.
Right.
It's not that the Henson Country... It's not that the Henson Company has never worked with marionettes, but that's not what a Muppet is.
Right.
So that was my first issue.
But I guess where the technically thing is that Jim Henson said it once, and then he recanted that definition of what a Muppet is.
It wasn't even Jim Henson. Some guy that worked with Jim Henson, and you know what that means. Is it was just like so many people bugged him about what does the word mean, what does the word mean, that at some point that was just something he said just to shut people up. And then at another point somebody was like, you know, as a professional puppeteer, you should probably be aware that what you're doing is not combining marionettes and puppets. And so they stopped doing that.
Right. Well, yeah, so I do apologize for my almost Herculean championing of the term Muppets as marionettes and puppets. That is not the case. And the thing is, the only reason why it was ever emblazoned into my mind was because I heard it, and on top of being a bad portmanteau, because you're literally just taking the M from marionette and putting it in front of the word puppet, you're not actually marrying two words there.
Marionetting them even.
Yeah.
No.
But is the fact that it's not accurate. But then again, I'm not working in the Henson workshop. I don't know what they're doing.
No.
I don't know. I don't like. They could be doing that. There could be some form of marionette on display, and but it's not. There's no truth there. So I'm sorry for saying that. I just wanted to get that out of the way because we did a little bit of research, and Sejan, all credit to Sejan, to find the truth of this story. And now you are all set. Like, you can go to trivia, and when you're asked that question and the answer is invariably it's a mashup of marionette and puppet, you'll know that as the answer, but then afterwards you can go up to the host and be like, that's actually not true.
You could be that guy. Everybody.
You can be.
Congratulations.
Well, I mean, I've been that guy because this one time I went to trivia at Foxwoods Casino. And I got every question right except for who was president when the Berlin Wall fell.
Right.
Because what was the answer to that question, Sejan?
Reagan.
No.
Right?
Nope. That's what they said the correct answer was. But George Herbert Walker Bush had taken office in January of 1989, and it was November of 1989 where the wall actually fell. So while it was all the work of Reagan to, tear down that wall, he was not in office. It was his vice president who had assumed the throne, as it were. Terrible term, because we don't have an oligarchy or an autocracy in America. We have a democracy.
See, but that is different. That is different because that is like, here's a hard truth, and it is trivial knowledge to know. Not trivial in the sense of like, boo, that you know this, but like literally trivia, right?
Yeah, it's
like that he was not in office when that happened. So that seems like actually like a good pub trivia question to me. Maybe like a bonus round question. You know what I mean? Like
the tiebreaker sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. This is one for the experts, right? Like this is one for the nitpickers. But like to do it. To do the Muppet marionette thing is just weird because it literally is something that I think part of it what it was that when you said that, I had never heard that thought before, and clearly you were not the only person that thought that, because I without even trying, stumbled across that tidbit of information the other day as I was like bouncing around on something else that I was looking at, and like so the idea being that it is something that I just never experienced before. Like maybe that's why it feels like that's not even trivia to me, because I didn't know it 2 weeks ago, and now I know it's not true. So
Right, I know but it's one of those things. I mean, that's what trivia is. A lot of trivia you don't know it the day that you're asked, and then hopefully you'll remember it going forward once it's the only question you miss. Now that being said, I had written down George Herbert Walker Bush and was like, just one short of a perfect score, whatever our team name was that week. And then I'm like, well, I need to go talk to that because I don't care about the fact that I didn't get the perfect score. I care that you said I was wrong when I was correct.
I know you gave me this Applebee's gift card, and I'm going to enjoy my half-priced apps, sir, but you need to know.
It was actually at a bar for some brewery in Connecticut. I don't know. This was a long time ago. This was pre-COVID, and I mean, it was kind of an awful night, too, because my friends were like, we're going to do trivia. So, like, I'm shifting into trivia mode. If I'm invited to go to trivia, you're getting trivia mode Devon Decker. You've gone to trivia mode.
My favorite variant. Yeah.
It's the thing, like, I'm there to play trivia, right? And the beautiful thing is that there are times between the trivia rounds where we can drink and we can have fun. But the second that the trivia is on, it's trivia time.
I mean, yeah, no, I know. You've got a t-shirt that says it that you wear whenever you turn into trivia, Devon, and it says, shut up, it's trivia time.
Right, exactly. But
you wear those cool sunglasses. I love it. I love trivia, Devon.
They did not really understand that, the people I was there with, and I'm like, oh, okay. It's sort of the same problem that I have with board game nights, where, like, I understand that you guys want to be social and play board games, but when we're playing the board game, I'm playing the board game. There's no friendship.
Board game Devon's a little different. I don't like board game Devon. He's meaner.
Board game Devon, I'm competitive. The fact of the matter is that I am a competitive person, and that competitiveness comes out doing trivia or playing board games. But trivia, I guess I'm working with you, but board game Devon, like 80% of the time I'm working against you.
Well, you're working with me at trivia night, and anyone that we're working against is not sitting at the table. You know what I mean? Like you're not looking the villain in the eye, I guess, that kind of thing, Whereas like at the board game night, like you're there and you're all looking at each other. We have a basic rule in our house that 9 out of 10 games have to be co-op games in this house. We can maybe get like one competitive game going, and it has to be like the game of life, or the one lately is Azul, which is for anyone that doesn't like know what that game is, think of it like dominoes, but instead of numbers you're looking at colors. It's weird. It's the ways in which we kind of have to dictate what's going to be a good family game for us is.
I mean, I'll be honest, once I found out about cooperative board games, I was sort of on board for it, but then the same issue came out where I'm like, this is not the social part of the night, right? Before we start playing the game, we can be social all we want. And then after we finish with the game, we can be social all we want. But during game time is game time.
It's game time.
And especially when it's like a cooperative game where it's like the 4 people in the room against the game board, I want to defeat the game board as soon as possible. That is the obstacle to socialization. So that is my target. You bring up. That's why I don't do board game nights. I had sort of moved away from them, and I don't know. It's one of those things. I take it too seriously. I know I take it too seriously, and I don't know. It all just comes together with the fact that Muppet does not mean marionette and puppet. My guess is that somebody went to the Wikipedia page, saw the line that says that it is, and then started making their BuzzFeed listicle without finishing the sentence where it says, but Jim Henson later recanted this statement.
Yep, and there you have it, everybody. Devon gets all of his knowledge and information from BuzzFeed articles. If it's not on a top 10 list, then Devon is not going to retain it.
No, the fact of the matter is if you're going to trivia, you buzz through some top 10 lists sometimes. Right? What is your trivia workout? Do you not have a trivia workout? Am I weird for having a trivia workout? Feel like I'm weird for having a trivia workout.
Trivial Pursuit every now and then, and you don't know jack, but that's just more for the fun than the workout,
I get it. I'm doing it wrong. I'm playing board games wrong because I'm working board games. I'm not playing them. All right. So I think we've put that in the past. Anything else you'd like to add from last week that might need a recantion or a retraction?
Yeah, I still love John Oliver. I don't know. I'm not involved in anything that occurred with that. Just wanted that to be out there again.
I mean, also love John Oliver. It just seems like I think we could take him. I think, like in a fight, I think I could take John Oliver. I don't want to fight John Oliver, but if it were to come to it,
what must be, must be.
Like, I don't want to fight James Corden. I like looking at the people. I don't know how I did this.
Well, see, that's a whole other kettle of fish, because that's somebody you do want to fight, but you don't know if you can.
Yeah, I feel like that. I mean, the fight between Devon Decker and James Corden. I mean, I think that would be we could make some real money on, right? Jimmy Kimmel. I think like maybe I could take Jimmy Kimmel, but it wouldn't feel satisfying.
Nah. I'd want to go back to the classics. Bring on Carson for me.
Oh, you want to beat up a dead old man?
Yeah.
It's called Stacking the Deck. I'd fight Jay Leno.
I could have said I meant Carson Daly. You don't know.
You meant Johnny Carson.
I meant Johnny Carson.
That's why we're able to do a show together, because you say Carson and I know you mean Johnny Carson. Carson Daly, by the way... I started early days of Facebook, right? Because Facebook has been in the news a lot lately with their shift to Meta, which I guess we could talk about it. It falls under the everything clause in our title. Early days when I woke up at 2 a.m. and the late show with Carson Daly, or whatever it was called, Up Late with Carson Daly. Was that the name of his weird show?
I don't know, man. Love Connection. That's what I'm thinking of. No. Like, he did have like an Up Late with Carson Daly, and it was like an Arsenio Hall style, like sitting around a coffee table set. I had passed out on a couch at a party, and I was woken by the Carson Daly show. And the first thing I did next time I was on my Facebook page was start the Carson Daly haters group. And I'm happy to say that it's still active, and I'm the only member. Oh man, Carson Daly is one of those ones though, like Ryan Stiles,
Ryan Seacrest.
Ryan Seacrest. Thank you. Two very different Ryans. Where like you don't really know how much like power and control that dude really actually has in the world until you know, and then it's like weird. Like Ryan Seacrest and the ways in which he kind of dictates pop right now is pretty fascinating. And Carson Daly, I think, has his fingers in a few pies when it comes to things like daily news and stuff.
And just think, if Brian Dunkelman hadn't quit after the first season of American Idol, we'd be living in a very different world.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That guy did not understand anything. So this was fun. This was a fun look. I don't even know what this was. Hi, welcome to the Say Report. We've already done that part, but I feel like I need a soft reboot of this episode.
Yeah, right. Yeah, what our opening convo is our touch base conversation. What's a good business term for it?
Catch up.
Yeah, the catch up.
The catch up / intro of the Say Report. I don't know. I'm in a weird mood. That's what I'm gonna say. Cause I did something out in the real world again today.
Ooh.
Devon
ventures out.
Devon ventures out. So Rhode Island Comic Con is going on this weekend. We haven't talked a lot about Rhode Island Comic Con on this show. Mostly I don't usually go, and the reason I don't go is because the very first one was a fucking shit show. People still talk about just how poorly that very first Rhode Island Comic Con went. And, you know,
what are we on now? 6th?
I think it might be the 6th, maybe the 7th. It's been going on for a while now, right? Just to say, Dale was in school when it first started, college. So I'd have to imagine that they're probably in the 7th. I think it started in 2014. But then you also, you know, it didn't happen last year. So this would be the 6th. But the 7th year since they started, and you know, I can be an asshole about it.
Math, yeah, man.
So yeah, and that first one was just so bad. And I had been to other conventions in Providence. I'm reminded of the big comic convention that I went to at the Living Room. Remember the Living Room? Not just for punk shows and syphilis couches anymore.
My man, like they did other things besides that kind of shit.
It was, it was the weirdest experience that I've ever had.
The bathrooms don't have walls.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay. So first of all, I mean, obviously, I went to the Living Room. I was friends with all the punk bands at my high school, so I'd been to the Living Room a bunch of times. And that really came to a head in 2012 when a friend of mine had joined a high school band as their guitar player, which, like, if that's not peak I was a musician in high school, I don't know what is.
Yeah, so you got to do the whole like off like stage right like area and like hang out over there with the bands, didn't you?
I mean,
Like
I got to do that when I was in high school. Yes.
that was like behind the yeah, man. I remember going to the living room and that was one of the best like the it was the only time in my life I think I've ever experienced like a quote unquote VIP section, and it wasn't even really a VIP section. It was just the only place they had that was off stage for the bands to like be and not get bombarded by everybody.
Right, and it was also the best place to be in there because you could hear the music, but you could also still talk. Like, somehow the acoustics in that space made it so that area, even though it was right by the stage, you weren't like overwhelmed by the music. It was good. It was a good time. But my friend, he's like, hey, I'm playing with this band. And I'm like, isn't that girl who was a freshman when we were seniors? And he's like, yeah, she's really good. And I'm like, it's a little weird that you've joined a high school band, but I'll check it out. So I show up at the living room and there's nobody there, right? They're playing at like 7:00 on a Wednesday night.
Oh man.
And I'm just like, whatever, I'm supporting my friend, and it's going back to the living room, and they say you can never go home again. And I get up to the door, and the guy's like, duh, 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 and like telling me all this stuff. And then, like, I don't know if it was an owner, it was somebody from the living room who was like, no, that's Devon Decker, he gets to come in for free. Not associated with the band, like, would have no reason to know that I was associated with the band in any way, shape, or form. Just like, my reputation preceded me from when I had been going there in high school. It was a moment that I will never forget.
I miss the living room, man. Like, best show I ever saw there, and like this is the memory. God knows if it's real. Like, it's one of those types of places. Like, fucking, it basically was like Xanadu for 14-year-old me, right? But I went to go see Brunt of It, and they were opened by Streetlight. And so, like, I really went to go see Streetlight. And the secret of that night was so had everybody else in Providence. So, like, Streetlight did their thing. Streetlight Manifesto plays, and then and everybody basically bails out after that. But Brunt of It is still playing. And, me and my friends still like Brunt of It, so we're there for the whole night. But I remember, like, going and basically Brunt of It sitting at the bar the entire time that Streetlight was on stage, pissed because they knew that this show in particular, I don't know if it was the whole tour or what, but they were just like, fuck, this is not our tour anymore. Shit. It's like that is like my gold memory of the living room, is like sitting at the bar hoping that somebody leaves their drink behind so that I could snag it.
Wow. Good. I like that story. That's a fun one. I don't remember any of my living room shows. They've all blurred together just because I was young and stupid, and I can't believe anyone would remember me. I have AS220 stories that are pretty solid. Like when Powerful Power, he had done a song that showed up in a Geico ad. Not Geico, Esurance. It would have been an Esurance ad. And he was doing a tour. And that day, he had bought an electric guitar because he's like, I'm going to be on tour. I want to have a new cool guitar. And he didn't realize that if you're going to use an electric guitar, you need an amp.
You need an amplifier.
He had only ever played acoustics before that. So, like, walking him through, you need an amplifier. Maybe you can ask one of the other guys if they have one you can borrow.
I hope. Jeez.
Yeah, but I wasn't there for that. I was there for the opening band. Actually, I was there for the drummer of the opening band because he's like, yeah, I'm going to be drumming for this guy. And I'm like, oh, I'll go see you. Like, we're friends long time. I'll go check you out. And then a bunch of people from URI Theater were there for Powerful Power. And I'm like, I've never heard of this person. And then he's like, yeah, man, I'm really excited. I got this new guitar. I'm like, just talking to him like random stuff. And he's like, yeah, I'm really excited. I'm like, oh, cool. What amp are you going to be running it through? And he's like, amp? And I'm like, yeah, that's how electric guitars work.
Yeah, man, they're cleaning all that shit up though, right? Like AS220, like that was the kind of place where you could go and see a show like that one night, and then the next night they'd be showing like some German version of Frankenstein that they had to like dim the windows on so that nobody could like see the porn inside. Like, man,
I once went to a Unibrow show there, and they were the opening act for what was, I mean, I guess you call it performance art, right? The girl at the end of the show, her final act was that she committed like fictional Harry Carey and disemboweled herself. like this crazy
Weird shit.
thing, like this crazy thing. So we're like, yeah, we'll check it out, right? Like we're gonna try to be nice. You stay. I was there with the opening act. I had only gone for the opening act. I helped them set up and all that. I had driven with one of them, and then we're like, well, we'll check out the first. That's etiquette, right? The etiquette is that you check out the headliner if you open for them. Like that's sort of what you do. And in that first thing, she gave me a topless lap dance. And then she's like, I'm going to go, it's intermission, so I'll be back in a second. And we all bounced out of there. Like, none of us stayed. And it's just like, oh, that was weird. They're like, yeah, how was that lap dance? I'm like, it was weird. Like, I don't know what like, I didn't think that was going to happen tonight. The thing that I remember is that she was there all night. She was at the beginning, and she sat at the ticket table where you'd, like, buy for your tickets. And she was in full clown makeup. And it was like 12 acts was what the name of it was. And the first act was she looked at herself in a mirror and said, why didn't anyone tell me I had this shit on my face? And then she washed her face off.
For like 20 minutes just watching a girl wash clown makeup.
And then she folded herself into a box, like contortionist style. But none of this is related to the first convention I went to in Providence, which was at the living room at 11 a.m. on a Sunday. Like, that's when it opened up. So I got there.
This is wild, and this is why the context was important. That when these were the kinds of shit that you were going to in this area, when you were into this sort of shit in Providence, like, this is insane to me that you were, first of all, at the living room at any time before 9 o'clock at night. As far as I'm convinced, Xanadu, that place doesn't exist before 9 o'clock at night.
Well, it doesn't exist anymore. R.I.P. the living room. Well, it's been destroyed.
The crabs live on in the soil. But the idea being that, like, that this is where you went to go to a convention at 11 o'clock in the morning is unreal to me.
Yeah.
Do they just throw the comic books on the pool tables? Like, what do they do?
Yeah, it was just a bunch of long boxes on every space where there could be long boxes. And it was literally nothing but comic books. And I went because, like, I was friends with the guy who owned the shop.
It wasn't a convention.
It wasn't even a convention. I mean, I got like 3 copies of She-Hulk number 50 still in the green and black foil bag for $1. Like, and that's still in my collection. Like, I'm very proud of those. But it was one of those things where I'm like, yeah, comic convention. Oh, this is just them selling comics. I've never seen this place with the lights on.
Yeah.
I thought it couldn't look any worse.
I thought they had just painted vomit on the walls, but nope, turns out it's just vomit.
Yeah, it was a trip. It was one of those things. But, like, because of that, I wasn't in any rush to go to any comic convention in Rhode Island. And 2 years ago, I did go with some friends from Connecticut because they're like, yeah, we always go on Sunday because the tickets are cheap if you go at the door. And, you know, you just get to walk around and see stuff. And I got to be honest, I wasn't hyper impressed. The Rhode Island Comic Con for what it is. And I've been to conventions kind of all over the country. And this one, it's really just the centerpiece is an autograph signing room in the main room. In that room where we once used the scissor lift. You, me, and Pat Boz, just to, like, date us.
Was that when we dropped? No, we didn't drop it. But was that when the crew we were working on almost dropped that screen on everybody?
Yep, that day, that beautiful day, in the main hall of the convention center. Yeah, that big room, and then, like, those people who almost dropped it on us. I worked with them at another gig, like other people were there, and they asked, and this is not me talking, but this is talking to, like, where's your little Hobbit friend? Which I can only assume is you. It might be Pat Boz, but probably you.
Pat Boz did the furry face thing more than I did in college.
And I'm like, well, he's
and
not.
Unless they were looking at my feet, and I don't think they were looking at my feet, then in that case, I might win the Hobbit competition.
And it was just like, well, that's like something. And then, like, the guys who had got me the gig, they're like, yeah, we can't get you any more work. These guys, they've been making fun of you all day. And I'm like, well, I don't really care that they've been making fun of me all day because this has been one of the easiest gigs for me. I'm doing work that I know how to do and I'm getting paid. So, like, I don't care. But, like, that kind of shows somebody's colors, right? When they're like, oh, I can't offer you any more work here because other people on the crew are making fun of you.
Yeah, and then they were the ones that fucking dropped that screen.
They were definitely part of that group that almost broke. Oh my god. Yeah, and the
That's
a speaker tower fell and the screen. They went together.
oh man.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was what happened.
I don't miss those kinds of gigs, man. I
No,
gotta be
I don't
honest.
like. Let me tell you, it was a fun thing to do when I was younger, but like, I'm glad that I've settled into something else for work. I will be honest with that, and these are nice memories to like why I do what I do now and have a stable paycheck and don't really have to deal with people who make fun of me because I don't know why.
Man.
But yeah, so I mean, that's Rhode Island Comic Con at like its heart and center is still that big autograph room, right? Like 4 aisles of autographs, and it's still that. Like people have been sharing their stories from it, and $40 for a selfie, 50 for an autograph, 80 for the pair. And I'm like, good for these guys, you know, getting out there using their star power to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not really interested in that. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, I've never been a big like autographs, like wait in line, pay for pay for 2 seconds to like tell somebody that you watched their latest movie. Like you know what I mean? Like it's a I I don't understand the need for that from a audience perspective. The fact that there is a need for it and that celebrities make their ducats doing that, like, hey man, like need fill it, right? Like that's how you run a good business and that's how you survive in this world. So I don't blame them for that. I just don't understand the other side of it. Like I've never been that kind of person that was so in love with a person that I needed to wait in line for them. You know,
I mean, yeah. And a step further than that, I certainly don't need to pay for that interaction.
well, right.
Like,
pay for the experience, right? Is even weirder.
right. I mean, like we stayed in line to meet Kevin Smith, which all ties together, right? But it was just buy something in the shop and you got to meet him, and there was stuff we wanted to buy in his comic book shop.
And I'll be honest, and maybe this is part of it for most people. I don't know. I don't know what the culture's really like, but the idea being that like that was also about like going on a road trip with you and Pat and like hanging out with you, and you know what I mean, like standing in line for 2 hours to meet Kevin Smith was a nice MacGuffin for us to like work towards, but like that was just something for us to do. It was part of it for me, you know.
Yeah, it's how you sell the show, right? It was earlier in our life, so we couldn't just get by on, it's something about everything, right? Episodes needed to have goals to keep audience members invested. Yeah, it's one of those situations. But one of the things that they did have at the Comic-Con, and not at the Comic-Con proper, but just in the Providence, Rhode Island area, was a pop-up Mooby's location. So the restaurant from Clerks 2, and also shows up in Dogma, and it also shows up in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So, like, yeah, that's something. You had to book it in advance, and I figured, you know what? It's something, right? And I need to have experiences because I haven't had experiences at all since everything with coronavirus and COVID-19 started. So it was just a fun thing to do. And I gotta say, overall, it was a pretty good experience. The burger was very good. I gotta look up the food truck that they clearly just hired to pretend to be Mooby's today. Because, I mean, that burger was good. It wasn't hyper juicy, but it was thick and flavorful.
Nice.
Like, and I don't really like a juicy burger's hit or miss for me. I don't really like when the juices from the meat get the bread wet. Like, I'm not upset about wet bread, but I want it to be, I don't know how to explain it. I had the worst cheesesteak of my life ever at Tony Luke's in Philadelphia, and the reason why is that it was too juicy, but to the fact that it tasted like I was eating water. Like the juices weren't flavorful.
No, man, I look, it's each their own, I guess, but give me the juiciest burger you can, and if I have to like just go into like a bread mess to get it, I guess that's the way it's going to be.
Okay. These weren't, I don't know. I want it juicy, but I want the juices to be flavorful. I want that juice to be greasy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird. So like there was a good burger. The chocolate covered pretzels were exquisite. To just be a freaking asshole. The complaints I have, and it's two, and it's three. There's three overall, and they're kind of minor. First of all, I had to book in advance and get this ticket, but then when I got here, they were just calling out names, and you went up and took it. They don't know that I'm Devon.
Yeah.
Like, they weren't checking the reservation that I got or anything like that. So that's small complaint 3. Complaint number 2 is the fact that I got a mall stand cookie, as a tie-in to Mallrats.
Yeah.
And it was basically the free cookie you were getting in the $5 fill-up boxes at KFC, and that was $6. I was expecting like maybe a hubcap. at least Mrs. Fields size.
Like at least an actual mall cookie, right?
Yeah, exactly. But then the number one complaint, and I gotta tell you, in the back of my head, I was thinking, is this because of COVID, or is this just because it's a little fucked up that they did this? I had paid $4 for a fountain soda, and they just handed me an open fountain cup full of Coca-Cola. Like, no lid.
No,
and it had been sitting there. I didn't watch them, like, fill it up. Like, there was 2 trays of cups of soda, and they're like, do you want Coca, Diet Coke, and Coke? And then they just handed it to me. And I'm like, well, let me tell you something. You're not supposed to just drink an open beverage, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't know what's involved in this. On top of the fact that we're at the tail end of, the biggest pandemic in our lifetimes.
Sure. These have just been sitting on the counter for everybody to shed their virus all over the place.
So, I just dumped that out and felt like, oh, there's a waste of $4 on a fountain drink. I guess I got a Mooby's cup, but it's just a paper cup with the logo on it. Like, I don't know. That was a little disappointing. But, I ate at Mooby's, and I can now say into perpetuity that I've had a meal at Mooby's. And, it's something. I did something, and I feel good that I did something. Does that make sense? Nice. Am I like, I don't know. It was something, but I was fearful. It made me fearful because, like, seeing all the people there for Comic Con, because Providence, it's at the convention center, so it's right by the Providence Place Mall. Local references get you local work. Here's that reminder: the whole city in that area gets taken over for Comic Con. Yeah. People in costume are everywhere. My mother got a picture of Waldo and Carmen Sandiego together. So if you're wondering where in the world those two are, it's Providence, Rhode Island at the time of recording.
Love it for the meme, man.
But it's just seeing all that, and I'm just like, oh man, I thought I missed people, but I don't. Like, I'm not sad that I'm not going to Comic-Con. And, like, there was a game convention going on in Connecticut this weekend, the same thing. And if it were a choice between those two, I probably would have gone to that gaming convention. But then again, I'm like, yeah, I'm not really ready for the people. That's what this little dip of my toe into the outside world again really proved for me.
Yeah, no, the big one for me this week, man, in that exact same vein, is not anything too special. It happens every year, but it's that time again, folks, for Christmas to come out yet 2 months early. So it's picking up around here like crazy. Like the Christmas stuff is starting to go out. So in addition to the fact that every store has like aisles closed down right now because they're putting up displays and putting out new product and all that, like you have people now like slowly kind of pushing their limits and more people going out to stores. So I just went grocery shopping yesterday, literally for just like a loaf of bread and some hot dogs, and like it was a nightmare experience for the first time in like 2 years, like having to wait in line for things, having to get out of people's way. It's just, it's weird. It's weird times because things are starting to come back to life in some way. I won't say they're back to normal because they're never going to be what they were before, but they're definitely coming back in a weird way. And it hit me too.
Yeah. I don't know. It's something about it. I am very happy that vaccinations have opened up from 5 to 11-year-olds, right? That feels like a step in the proper direction to maybe contain this, that there isn't a whole section of the population that is not eligible for the vaccine, but then also being told you have to go interact with people every day.
Yeah, some of the most vulnerable of our entire community, right? Like that they have to be around and forced into small contained spaces with people that, nightmare scenario before, but at least things are getting better? Question mark.
Yeah, that's getting better. Well, I mean, because then at the same time we have the whole Aaron Rodgers thing going on, right? And I guess I didn't plan on talking about Aaron Rodgers, but getting better, we're seeing that even prominent people think that the rules don't apply to them.
I mean, some might say most exclusively prominent people always seem to assume that the rules don't apply to them. Yeah, I think the biggest bummer there is that like Aaron Rodgers for a long time was kind of the golden boy, especially in the days when Brady was constantly catching crap, controversy after controversy, and earned in most cases. I'm like not gonna sit here and try and defend Tom Brady right now. That's not the point of this rant. But like the idea, like at that time, is I remember, and this might have been just being in the area, the country I was in, up in the Toledo area, but like catching a lot of shit about Brady while everybody was comparing him to Rodgers and how Rodgers was the good boy. Rodgers was the open one and the transparent one. And then to see how far they fall, I guess, is kind of my point.
I mean, I think that maybe he thought the only way he could become the host of Jeopardy is if he suddenly had some controversy in his life.
It seems to be the only way they contact people. Yeah.
Yeah, right? So I honestly don't know. Plus, he was having issues with the organization. So I think, and I don't want to think that he was playing like any sort of 3D chess with it. But, if I don't follow this rule, maybe they'll cut my contract and I can finally be out from under the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, and not really thinking through the consequences of what that would mean for him socially, for sure. Yeah. Like, I can believe that. Because I was about to say, yeah, I think Aaron Rodgers, as much as I will admit to a lot of talent and all that, I don't think he's one of the brightest motherfuckers I've ever met.
I mean, he won Celebrity Jeopardy, but
that does not dictate. Knowledge does not dictate wisdom, right? Like True. That, like he's never struck me as one of those guys that kind of understands how to play 3D chess, let alone like worrying about what he really means. You know what I mean? Like, I think he basically says what he means a lot. I think it's very fortunate for him that he has not said something dumber than this until now. You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean, well, he has. He went on McAfee's show to defend it. And he should not have said, he said it was immunized, right?
Yeah.
I'm immunized. And then he's like, and if anybody had ever asked me a follow-up, I had my response prepared for that. And it's just like, well, why would you say that? Why would you not just feign the ignorance in that? Why would you tell them, don't worry though, I was prepared. I was prepared for the follow-up.
Exactly. I knew what I was doing was wrong and was prepared to talk about why I didn't care. Is essentially all you're saying, dumbass.
Yeah, because like in the beginning, it's just like, you know what, whatever. He did whatever it is. But then when he's like, and I was ready, right? Like, I knew I was breaking the rules. So I had a statement ready if this ever happened. Like, well, that doesn't help you. That doesn't exonerate you.
What are you,
that
like
makes
a
you
Disney
look
villain?
Guilty as hell.
Yeah.
And then, like, and at the end of the day, his whole thing that he is allergic to something in the mRNA vaccine, and that's why he stayed away from it. People have been getting exemptions for that very thing. So, like,
yeah, if that's true, which I would need to hear more about that before I believe it. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I don't buy it yet, because that just is, the odds of that are pretty astronomical to begin with, and the fact that it would happen to somebody in the celebrity status as like an Aaron Rodgers is just kind of like that gets even crazier, right? Like, so I would really need to see exactly what he's talking about on that before I even bought that bullshit. But like you said, people that out there that do legitimately have these kinds of reactions have that's considered a medical excuse, Aaron, when like the NFL would understand that.
The NFL said that there were medical exemptions. They just need to be filed so that they're aware of it.
And you're Aaron Rodgers, so guess what? You don't even really have to do most of the work. You just have to look at somebody and say, I'm allergic to something in it. And boom, five guys will show up with the paperwork for you to sign.
A team doctor will sign a piece of paper. You're not even involved in it. You mention it to your team doctor, I'm allergic, and he takes care of it, and then it's on file. It's so weird. And I think the other weird thing is that, like, legitimately, right, there are people who have that issue with the vaccine, right?
Exactly.
There's always been a medical exemption to it. But if an actual, like, famous person with some clout came out and said, you know, I'm affected by that as well, right, and had that documentation, it'd go a long way in not making people, like, distrustful of those people who say, well, I'm allergic, that's why I'm not going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know. It's just, because I've had that conversation too, like, what medical exemption can you have to it? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I have friends who are, you know, they've gotten other vaccines in the past and it's affected their bodies negatively, not what they were getting vaccinated against. It's not like I got a flu shot and then I got the flu. Their bodies had other reactions to it. So they went to their physician and said, yo, am I good to get this? I mean, my father, right? He's immune compromised because of disease that he has. And he had to go to a doctor one day seconds ago. I feel like I'm a good, fit for the vaccine, and I'd very much like to get it. But before I put it into my body, I want to make sure that it's not going to have negative effects on the treatment of what I'm going through right now.
Right. Yeah, I'm already putting a bunch of unknown chemicals into me. Let me double check this one. That's fine. And he went to a doctor and had that conversation, which is what you do.
Right.
You don't get on Twitter and talk about how you just looked it up on Facebook. But there's this idea that I guess that's why I have such a hard time believing the medical exemption clause, because of the very nature of the fact that if that's all it was, if that was his reason for not getting it, this wouldn't be a thing. He would have said to somebody, I can't get this, I have a medical exemption, and they would have given him a medical exemption. End of story. So that can't possibly be what's going on.
Yeah, it's not something that comes out in Work 9 and dominates the news cycle for a week. I mean, to the fact that it gets talked about on the Say Report. Right? Like that means that it's something substantial that happened. if it's newsworthy enough for us to talk about it. And I think the last thing about it, and then we can move on to happier things, right? Is the NFL in the beginning of the season, they were very hard and firm about what they would do in the event of something like this happening. Mm-hmm. Like there will be consequences for the entire organization, not just the player, and those aren't happening with Green Bay, right? Mm-hmm. So it kind of defangs the NFL in a way that I don't think they need any help to look like an incompetent organization.
Yeah, no, man, it's just another nail in the coffin when it comes to that conversation. I don't know what more there is to say. It's not even like I care to fucking. Is it still Goodell or is what? Who's the?
I believe it's still Roger Goodell. I imagine if it changed, I would know that. But also, I mean, if it changed, right? If they got rid of Roger Goodell as the commissioner of the league, I think that they'd want to make sure that everybody knows it. Right?
Hey, by the way, that guy that might have been fucking it up every step of the way. No, instead he's just still there fucking it up every step of the way. So there it is,
Yeah. We're not going to talk about the elephant in the room when the elephant in the room is Roger Goodell. And I don't... I really liked the visual I just gave myself. All right, let's move on. What have you been up to? What have you been doing? And then I got fun stuff. Well, I have actually other sad things to discuss.
Why sad things?
Well, I guess not sad things, more the state of the sitcom in 2021, or as I've taken to calling it, the sit-drom.
Okay.
This is all stemming from, I finally did about 4 episodes of every sitcom that I watch, the 4 episodes of the season, so you can kind of figure out how it goes. Yeah, this is good. Let's get this out of the way, too, and then legitimately happy things to talk about. And most of the sitcoms have not been very funny this season.
Oh, man. And you mean, to clarify, not that they've been trying and they're just stinkers. You mean they haven't even been trying to be funny.
I mean, okay, so the crown jewel of this whole discussion is the 4th episode of The Neighborhood, with, Cedric the Entertainer and Max Greenfield, Beth Bears, Tachina Arnold. And I say that because Beth Bears and Tachina Arnold are the secret main characters of that show. And I love that because I've been a big fan of Tachina Arnold for 10 years now. So, I want her to get all of the credit that she is owed. Right. Sorry, I'm going to say it. So the 4th episode of The Neighborhood was titled Welcome to the Porch Pirate. And what do you think that episode was about, Sejan? If you had to, so the title of our episode is Welcome to the Porch Pirate. Based purely on that, can you give us a 1-sentence synopsis?
Well, the colloquial term porch pirate refers to somebody that steals delivery packages that are not theirs. But I feel like they're using that in a very different way here.
Nope, they're using it in that phrase.
Okay.
But the reason why Calvin needs to act as a porch pirate is because at the end of the 3rd season of The Neighborhood, it's the 3rd season, they're in their 4th season, Max Greenfield's character Dave and Beth Bear's character Gemma found out that they were pregnant. So that was the whole storyline. And the reason for that was that Beth Bears was pregnant in real life, right? So they were just going to write it in order to cover it up. But then COVID happens, so they don't need to film that and everything. And so they decided in the 4th episode, Gemma lost the baby. And we're going to do a miscarriage episode.
Oh my God. I mean, it's not too unusual for sitcoms to do special episodes, right? Like that's not out of the ordinary though. Like there's always like and used to be a time when there was the family kind of situation dramedy, like your Full Houses and things like that, where like they always had their sad moments, right?
Right. But I wanna just readdress the noise you made when I said it was a miscarriage episode of The Neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right?
No. Yeah.
Because that's it. And then, like, deeper into the episode, now I guess I should have given a warning on it, because one of my things is that, like, had there been a warning that this is going to be dealing with heavier, like, things, maybe we wouldn't have watched it. Maybe we would have waited until we were in maybe a better headspace to enjoy the episode of The Neighborhood, giving us that second of pause, or at least a second to prepare ourselves for what was happening. And this isn't like high drama, and it's a half-hour sitcom on CBS, right?
Right.
So like you very rarely are you going in with your walls up, or do they not show exactly what the episode is about in the trailer, so you kind of know what to expect?
Right.
No. It was very much Calvin in the trailer trying to take packages off of their porch, and for some reason, and we gotta watch the episode to find out, which is called Welcome to the Porch Pirate. So there's probably a reason, but what are you gonna do? No,
I mean, I can tell you what the reason is right now.
Was
People have been sending her baby stuff.
Well, he had ordered her something for baby stuff, and then he wanted to get his one package back. When he found out
what the actual
that's exactly what the storyline ended up being.
Like I can tell you why that's happening. It's a weird fucking thread, but I could definitely
like it makes sense, but when you don't have the context of it, that's not what you think. I mean, if normal episode of The Neighborhood, I would imagine that there's a porch pirate terrorizing the neighborhood, and Calvin and Dave are going to work together to try to catch it. So, like, they put Dave in a big box and hide him on the porch, and then when the porch fire comes, he jumps out at it. But that's not what happened. It was not slapsticky. It was, like, kind of high drama about it. Because then even the reveal that Calvin and Tina, Cedric Entertainer and Tachina Arnold's characters, they had suffered one as well between their two boys. So, like... And they talked about it. Like, it was a good episode of television. It was the kind of episode of television where, like from the 90s, where, like, we're talking about things and we're highlighting and talking about something that doesn't really get mentioned at all in that. But, like, it just came from fucking nowhere. That, like, it was going to be an episode about shared grief. And,
I mean, it came from COVID.
Yeah.
It came from a bunch of people having way too much time to be like, oh shit, now we don't need to do the pregnancy story. Do we do the pregnancy story? I don't really want to pretend to be pregnant for an entire season if I don't have to be. What do you want to do? Let's kill the baby. He's like eventually that's what COVID did to us all, is we got to that like terrible dark part in all of us where we were just like, I don't know, what the fuck are we doing? Just do this.
Yeah. It was weird. And it was the one that made me decide I need to talk about this on the show, because another show that I've been watching is The United States of Al, which is another half-hour CBS sitcom. And the first season is about a man living in Ohio. He's able to get the translator who was stationed with his unit in Afghanistan during the Iraq War. He was able to get him out and to move in with him. Right? And it was the whole thing of that, like, culture clash and them living together, and sort of about how the military treats their vets. So it was already kind of like borderline, not a huge comedy show. Like, there's some drama on display already. But then everything that happened in Afghanistan in August of this year happened. So then the opening episode is him trying to navigate his sister out of Afghanistan, because she works with the U.S. government, and if the Taliban get her, they're going to murder her. Like, just straight up and down. That's the story of the first episode. And then the second episode is still, we haven't heard from her since we know that she got on a plane. Is she okay? And the third episode was light and airy and like kind of fun. It was about bowling. And the third episode, Al is suffering panic attacks and just like passing out in places. And the capper of this episode, that is still called a comedy, right? CBS is still marketing it as a comedy, is that Al always thought that his friend when he was younger was able to move out to Turkey, but it turns out that he watched his whole family die in a car explosion and just repressed the memory and made up another thing. And it's like, that's not what I'm looking for in this sitcom, right? Don't call it a sitcom. I'm fine with a half-hour drama, but like, let me know that that's what I'm getting into.
Well, and that's when it becomes not fair, right? Like that, and that's when it becomes kind of like a weird, like awkward situation for an audience member. Is it's like you don't mean to be discouraging the fact that they're doing something, right? Like, this is good. There's something on display here that's important. It's just not the ticket I bought, right?
Right.
So now you're stuck in this weird position where you're just like, I don't want to say like this shouldn't exist, but like it's not what I want to be watching right now. What the hell? Like,
right. I mean, it's supposed to be a distraction. It's sort of, this feels like you put it perfect when you said what happened is COVID, and that's how you get an episode like Welcome to the Porch Pirate in the Neighborhood. What happened is COVID, and that's how we get shows that are reflecting the natural world that we're living in, like the season of The Connors that they made during the pandemic, which was all about them, having to live with the restrictions and having someone in the house who was hyper nervous about getting sick, or, giving Katie Siegel's character, she actually has COVID, and seeing how that affects her life, not being able to see the family that she has sort of become a part of since she started dating Dan. Like, it's like, that's fine, and it's real world stuff, right? And Roseanne, or the Connors, right, whatever you're going to call it, has always been sort of reflecting the truth of that, like, lower class in America.
Right.
But I'm looking for escapism right now. I'm not looking to deal with the world that I have to deal with all day, and then when I come home to, like, get my mind off it, like, oh no, that's right, in Langford, they're also dealing with COVID. I can't escape it.
I think what it is like if there is one show, right? Like blow this out. This is not just about these shows right now. This is about TV in general, right? That idea being that, like, if there's one or two shows like that want to push those boundaries, where I come in for a sitcom and they're a little bit edgier from time to time, like that's fun and that's exciting. Variety is the spice of life, right? The problem is that when every show is now trying to be that show, you don't get a friggin' break. There's not a moment in your half an hour Thursday night comedy block where you aren't thrown or slapped in the face with some after school specials like nonsense, or you're not given some morality play literally on display in front of you. And again, one of your shows in that block, two of your shows in that block want to do it, like, that's interesting and fine. But when every show in that block is doing it, it's like, why am I even watching TV tonight?
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of how it is, and what they do, it's interesting, because I think back to when I was, like, not really in a war with the Parental Television Council, but I was definitely kind of trolling their worst episode of the week feature on their website.
Yeah.
And the thing where they're like, this is something that happened during primetime television. The 8 o'clock hour shows are, well, I mean, that's not true. The Neighborhood is an 8:30 show, so that's goes right out the window. Because I'm thinking about Thursdays on CBS, and the shows on Thursday on CBS is Young Sheldon at 8 o'clock, which is historically right now in the 90s, right? It takes place in the early 90s, so COVID isn't even something that would ever go near them, right? It is pure escapism. And then, but, also weirdly tied to the Big Bang Theory. And then the 8:30 show is Be Positive, which has had a huge shift from the first season, where it was a guy who needs a kidney and his former friend from high school offering to give him hers, right? Where now it's sort of a will they or won't they love story, and the female, and like, this is sort of negative, and I had never thought about it. Like, she donated her kidney out of the goodness of her heart. In the first episode of the second season, she's given $24 million because she was kind to one of the residents at the assisted living home she worked at. So, like, that sends a message about you should be giving away your organs. You might get $24 million.
Yeah, you know, if you're a good person, life will take care of you, which is also bullshit, but it's a nice
Right.
message.
But I had never thought about that messaging that is there, but it's totally there. And now she owns that assisted living facility, and is will they or won't they? And it really seems like it's going to be a set piece for like older actors to come in and get to entertain you for half an hour. Because like Hector Elizondo is there, Ben Vereen, Jane Seymour, Linda Lavin, like, and that looks like it could be fun, right? So your first two shows on Thursday night are that. Then the ninth show is the weird American adaptation of Ghosts.
Oh yeah, I forgot that was a thing right now.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know how to feel about it. It makes me want to watch the BBC version, sort of like how Call Me Cat made me want to do it. But
yeah, it's that thing that, and I think we talked about this with Call Me Cat, is I thought we were past this point of remaking British shows. Why not just put them on? Because clearly people here don't mind watching Brit. What is the idea between Americanizing some of these shows? And Ghosts, I guess, because some of the historical context on some of the like the happenings to the ghost, I can kind of see it, like wanting to make it more relatable for American audiences, because you are going to be referencing so much history. But even then, that's a stretch. Like that's me talking out my ass. Just put the British one on because it has a fan base.
right. I mean, the big thing is it's getting people to go to HBO Max. I have actually already seen that, because a lot of people are like, if you enjoy Ghosts on CBS, you should check out the original, which is now streaming on HBO Max. Yeah. So like it feels like it was maybe a marketing strategy for that, but also the American rights to that currently belong to Warner Brothers. So CBS can buy the concept rights, right? The story rights to it, and create their own show, and then they get all of the money that comes from having a show about that show again.
Yeah.
Right? And syndication and all that. But the fact is, there's 2 seasons of Ghosts in Britain, right? The English version has 2 seasons, so that's at most 16 episodes if each season was 8 episodes, and I think it's 2 6-episode seasons if memory serves. So like they're going to do 22, maybe they'll do 13. CBS is the champion of the 13-episode season, and then they don't swing too far. But it's always weird to me when not only are we adapting a show that's already popular in Britain when we could just show it in America, but we also need to extend it out to American broadcast standards for television.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, very early on, you're inventing your own storylines.
Yeah, I mean, look at The Office and the ways in which, like, their first season is a 6-episode season, right? In order to just kind of remake some of the stuff that happens in the British one, and then very quickly it just has to become its own show, because part of that is timing. Part of that is just the fact that the way American television works, it was not going to be able to just do what the British one did.
Yeah, it's just thing. But then you have Ghost, which, like, that's always a little weird too, because, you know, half of your cast, not more than half of your cast, there's 2 living members of the principal cast in that show, and the rest are the 8 ghosts who are all dead people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like there's something. And then you have the United States of Al, which I wouldn't even call it a sitcom at all. It was already dramatic last year, dealing with the fact that like Riley had post-traumatic stress disorder, and it caused him to become an alcoholic and lose his wife, and now he's trying to be a good father to his daughter, and all this other stuff. Like, it was already heavy stuff, but then, and on some level, good for them for not shying away from what happened in Afghanistan, but taking their show and making it a platform to kind of highlight how people feel. Like in the second episode, Riley, because he couldn't just sit around waiting to see what was going to happen, he went out and got a job as a repo man, and he started using military terminology again and being like, I'm on mission right now, and that. So it's like, well, now you're just, you know, transferring the energy and looking for it somewhere else. And that's not healthy. Like, you're not dealing with your feelings.
Yeah. No, I mean, they're trying to capture that same magic that something like MASH did, right? Where like, and that is, I mean, you know, that is a proven thing that works for us. It's not unusual that these shows are trying these things, right? That's what I mean when I say that like 1 or 2 of these shows, like, explored on an individual basis, all totally make sense, and on paper sound like amazing attempts at like flipping the formula on its head and all that sort of stuff, or nostalgically referencing something but bringing it forward in time by using the Iraq War as opposed to, or the Afghanistan War as opposed to Korean War, right? That was MASH.
Yes.
But like there's this thing that like when every show is trying to be that, like that's not why I tune in for Thursday night sitcom comedy, guys. Right. Like give me just one dumb show that maybe won't even last a season. I don't care. But like, where's your Dharma and Greg's? Where's your Friends?
Where's Keenan? I want Keenan to come back. I'm just gonna say that. I mean, Keenan was a weird show, but
Keenan was fun though.
I had fun watching it, and it's supposed to be coming back, but I don't know. Like they're like the only like sitcoms that are really there is CBS. ABC has a few on Wednesday nights, and there's the Goldbergs, the Wonder Years remake, which is still set in the 70s, which is interesting to me. Like I almost thought that it was going to be called the Wonder Years and then maybe shuffle it up to the same time distance between when the Wonder Years happened. But no, it's just but now it's a African American family instead of the white family. So there's that thing. And Blackish is, by all accounts, I don't know when Blackish is on anymore.
Yeah.
But I think like ABC has 4 sitcoms and CBS has 6 of them. Like sitcoms are dying in favor of the hour-long drama, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's because the threshold to get syndication on an hour-long series is lower than with a sitcom. In fact, I would almost imagine that's exactly why that's the case. It's been weird. It's just been a weird time, and it really came to that head for me watching The Neighborhood. And like the second they showed Gemma, it was like, oh, she lost the baby. Like everybody in the house knew that that's what the story was going to be.
Yeah.
And it was still like one of those moments where like, this isn't what we wanted. This isn't what we expected. Especially we did 2 neighborhoods last night, and the one before it was about rebuilding a baseball field. Oh no, wait. It also had the storyline where Nicole Sullivan played a teacher who was hired at Gemma's school who claimed to be black, but she was very, very much a white person. Kept capturing the humor of the Rachel Dolezal situation.
Oh man.
Like, at the perfect time. CBS.
Oh, man.
It was an uncomfortable episode of television, but not the kind of uncomfortable that I felt I needed to talk about on the show, right? So I think that's everything negative. I watched Moneyball for the first time.
Hey, man. Yeah, what you think?
It's interesting. It's fucked up that like they ruined baseball. Like just objectively, having watched the World Series and then like the Saturday Classic to be Moneyball, and like, oh, look at that, all the stuff you did that made that World Series game go till 1 a.m. That's interesting, huh? Fuck you, Billy. Fuck you, Peter. Especially when you like, I never really considered it, but then like looking back at the Red Sox, and the final card of that whole movie is 2 years later, the Red Sox would win their first world championship since 1918, employing the exact type of baseball that, Billy Beane pioneered at the Oakland A's.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the end of the day, like the crazy thing about that is the point he was trying to make is that you don't need to be spending millions of dollars for all-stars. You can still put a winning team together and then create all-stars. And that was kind of like a beautiful idea, but like his methods for doing it are just gross. And like now it's and easily exploitable, which is now what we've seen 10 years later, is that his methods have now been taken and exploited to the fact where now everybody's using them, and now somebody needs to come up with a new like system. It's fucked. That movie is such a weird, bittersweet film for so many reasons, even on the conceptual level.
Yeah, I mean, I think where it really just like hit me with that is we can put together a team without spending millions of dollars, but then once the first person comes around, is like, so what if we put together a team with all of this like philosophy behind it? But then we also spend millions of dollars on the players. Oh,
you mean the Yankees, which is what the Yankees, and here's kind of the secret.
What
the Yankees had kind of already been doing it.
Yeah. Or the Astros. I mean, that's the reason why the Astros are where they are. Is Moneyball plus money to back it up.
Moneyball plus money, yeah.
Yeah. It's it was it. But the real relic of that film, and that's why I'm gonna keep it in like the dour, sour moments of this episode, is that Bobby Kotick of Activision Blizzard plays the owner of the Oakland Athletics for some reason. He plays Steven Schlott. He is uncredited. He shows up on screen, and I'm like, why the fuck is Bobby Kotick on my screen right now? Like, he's not an actor.
Yeah, what a weird pull. What a weird pull.
And it's just like, and it kind of left me floating above the movie the whole time, which was disappointing, right? And it made me feel like that little bit sad that I had never seen it in theaters, because A, I probably wouldn't know what Bobby Kotick looked like if I had seen it when it came out in 2010, but also that like magic of the movies, I think I would have been immersed in it more than watching it in the same chair where I had literally just watched the 6th game of the World Series, and it employs so much of the philosophy, like, like it was built into the setting, because like I just watched the World Series, and so much of it is like, yeah, I'm just gonna wait, right? I'm gonna make you use up all your pitches, so you got to bring out another pitcher, right? That's right, 5 pitchers, and we're in the 6th inning. That makes sense, right? That's smart baseball.
Oh man, fucking hell!
I mean, it's very well made. Brad Pitt is excellent in it, but like the actual ramifications and that being my like exposure to it, and I'm like, oh wow, nailed it! I can't wait till there are robotic umpires.
Yeah, man. The important thing to remember about that movie is that movie is not the reason that baseball became that way. That dude is, and that story is.
Oh yeah,
that's just a movie about that story. You know, like that's what you got to remind yourself. It's like when people talk about how they hate Schindler's List because it's the Nazis. It's just like, well, you understand they're not the heroes, right? He's not exactly shown in like the best light in that movie. Like the entire point is about how he cannot seem to put the fucking job behind him. You know, until the last moment, which is cute and all, but he's just terrible to his family in that movie.
Yeah, Herr Schindler is not a hero. He just did one heroic thing.
Well, I meant in Moneyball.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I took you brought up Schindler's List, and I have a lot of
that really cute thing that he does at the end of that movie where he saves all those.
Yeah,
no, right? Man. At the end of Moneyball, when Brad Pitt like finally decides to like leave his like family, like leave his work behind him to be with his family, which is why he doesn't take the job at the Sox and blah blah blah. What I said already, but now just replace your weird fucked up version of it with real one.
Don't put it with Schindler's List. Well, I mean, I haven't seen Schindler's List in a while. I think I've only ever seen it the one time, and at that point, taught in English class, and they're like, what's the significance of the girl in the red coat? And I'm just like, stupid. This is not what this should be about, right? We shouldn't be using this as on a literature level, on like a storytelling level. Like, this is a weird culmination to what has been a year about Nazi Germany and writing letters to Elie Wiesel and getting a response back, and him like kind of like global responding to everybody's frankly stupid 8th grade level answers, and then the final paragraph is like, and Devon, I really wanted to address your question, and I get a whole paragraph, and I'm like, that's not what I wanted from Elie Wiesel. I just thought like about the question that nobody would ask him, and asked him, and then that got back to us.
You ask him about his cat?
No,
I asked him about his cat.
I don't even remember. I just remember feeling like very odd that it was like 5 names. This is how I feel about your question. So like 5 people had asked him the same question, and then I get a paragraph, and the whole thing is read to us by our English teacher, and I'm just like, man, I don't mind being the center of attention, but this feels like the weird moment to be the center of attention.
So you get to write to cool people. We did the pen pal thing, but just with another school. So we also got like the getting letters back and forth thing, and they were always just as bad as the ones we wrote.
We had to do the pen pal thing in 6th grade, And the kid, he yelled at me about pirating SNES games. Like, don't
You
copy
would download
games.
a car, would you?
Don't copy games. This is illegal. And I'm like, I'm not copying games. Like, what are you talking about?
Don't copy that floppy.
I'm just like, what is happening? And then I met the kid because we had like a day where we met him, and I looked her straight in the face and I'm like, oh, I hate you. And I'm pretty sure we got into a fight by the end of that day. Like, I'm talking 6th grade fisticuffs.
Oh shit. All because you stole that version of Kirby's Dream Land.
That was Donkey Kong Country, and I didn't steal it. He was just like, he had just discovered Donkey Kong Country. And with Donkey Kong Country, I don't know why, but there was like a big push against game copying and illegal copies of games.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a timing thing.
Yeah.
It was after the Nintendo had really kind of been a big deal, and illegal copies of games had been going around. And am I wrong? The Super Nintendo lost the Famicom like security measure with the little like plastic clippy, right? Like, in order to play Super Nintendo games in a Famicom, you had to like put like a plastic piece on them.
No, so there are, if you look at a SNES cart, a US cart for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System,
on the footprint, right? Like, look at
the footprint. There are 2 little notches on the front of them, and inside of the system, those 2 notches are there so that if you slide it in, they'll fit into it. And the Japanese and European versions, they're flat fronted and they're also curved, so they won't fit into a American system. So
you had to like break them, right?
Right. And I had been I had been reading Nintendo Power, and I had also then got into like other gaming magazines. So I think what I had written to him was that like, I've been talking about localization and games, because there were like games that I was seeing in Japan that like I wanted to play in America, primarily Final Fantasy V. I was so in love with Final Fantasy V. And I think I had mentioned that to him in a thing, but you know, there's all these measures to make sure we can't play non-US games in our systems. And I think that was his response. And I'm just like, you brought up video games, right? So that's why I tried to talk to you about video games and where I was with them. But where I was with them in 6th grade was trying to play international games. And you took that as weird. I have not thought about that kid for a long time. And if this were the neighborhood, and I'm going to turn it into the neighborhood right now and go from say calm to say drum. After we did get into fisticuffs, one of the girls who attended the same school as him was like, why would you fight with him? He just lost his mom. And I'm just like, oh, well, he's still an asshole. Like, do those 2 things have to be mutually exclusive?
Oh, my God. Oh, man.
Man, I feel like young Devon would be a different show from young Sheldon. Oh man, so yeah, let's talk about something fun. Let's talk about something that's not related to literally.
Speaking of pirating Super Nintendo games,
yeah. I tried to introduce it as a lovely segue for you.
Yeah, no, man. I've been still going with my my Super Mario RPG run. I get 6 stars now. I just defeated the
Axum Rangers?
Yeah, the Power Ranger like stand-in characters. I don't know what the joke is there. But yeah, just defeated the Axum Rangers and got that star. And so I'm just kind of going around and doing some cleanup work right now, just finding some frog coins I've missed or weapons and stuff that I haven't gotten a hold of yet. And like I'd never done like all of the little nitty gritty bits of this game before. Like this is really kind of my first push to like try a bunch of the like weird stuff in it. So like I'd never knew about like the lazy shells or anything like that. I think I talked last time about how I was going to try and go up against Kurlax, yeah, or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
At the time was not a good idea. Maybe I'll go back and try now because like it was like an insta death. Like the when I went up against him a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, if your party's not level 30, You're not getting anywhere in that fight. That's just a fact, man.
I mean, that might be what I have to do. Yeah, but like that's the kind of shit I'm doing, right? Is like I went a whole I for the first time ever I bought like the experience booster and stuff like that. So I'm like wearing that and going around and getting like 50 XP a fight, which is actually pretty significant in that game considering. Yeah, it's doing a bunch of that silly stuff that I never got to do before. But like it's one of those things where I owned that game, I played that game, I owned that game twice over. Like I've always kind of adored that game. And so like I don't know, I have no qualms about going back and fucking around with it now in a way that I just wouldn't be able to any other way, So like
oh, I know. After you finish, we should try to do a randomizer together. It would be fun maybe to try that out.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how the randomization on it works. But I've been doing some other stuff. I got a hold of Wario's Woods on the SNES as opposed to the emulated one on the Switch, which I believe is for the Nintendo Entertainment System.
That's correct,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I gotta say that I think the controls on the emulated one on the Switch might be better than the one that I've got here. And I don't know if that's because of the nature of what I'm doing, or if it's just that they've got a really good clean NES copy.
The NES version of that game is the superior copy of that game.
It's
not
tight.
Graphically or anything like that, but control-wise, they knew what they were doing with puzzle games on the NES. I don't know if you've ever gotten a chance to play Dr. Mario and Tetris for Super Nintendo.
Yes. Both Nintendo and for the Nintendo Entertainment System,
right?
And I prefer that one for the NES as well.
Yeah. The Super Nintendo one, like it feels weirdly floaty, and it feels like there's an input delay when you're turning the pieces.
Yep.
And I don't know why or where that would come from, but it's something that like I had a friend who that was the only like copy of the game she owned. And we would hang out on Mondays. We would get people's change in the lunchroom. We'd walk to Burger King and buy a feast with whatever change we collected. And then we'd go to her place and play Super Nintendo games. Like that was just the thing we did. And it would be that version of Tetris. And I hated it. Because it made me feel like I was bad at Tetris. And like, I'm not bad at Tetris. I'm just bad at this specific version of Tetris.
Yeah, Tetris is one of those things that shows up on every system now. So I'm sure there's some kid out there that could blow us away on his iPhone.
Oh my god! Have you ever watched high level Tetris play?
Yeah, man. It's crazy.
Starting on level 18 and then like racing to get a max out score of 999,000. Like I don't think I'll ever get there. I mean, I play Tetris. I always play Tetris from the bottom and work my way up. I think the highest I've ever gotten is to level 18 playing from the bottom. And that was just
I am currently sitting on a level 13 play of Tetris.
Nice.
in my Super Nintendo of that. I don't think I'll ever get past level 13 because I normally hit about 8 or 9, but I lucked out on one and I got to level 13. But yeah, so I always start from the bottom too, and I always try and work my way up.
Yeah, I also like Type B. Type B Tetris is something that I've recently started exploring and playing around with, where you have to get 25 lines. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to get 25 lines, and you can also add a height, and there will be existing blocks up to 5 rows up is the highest. And I like that because on NES Tetris, if you beat stage 9 at height 5, you actually get an end screen, which I think is super cool.
Yeah. Tetris just very rarely ever has that kind of the point of Tetris is to go till you lose, right?
Right. Like it's why it's one of those score games. Why that high level play is all about getting to that highest possible score. It also has a kill screen on the NES version. Like it's impossible to play after level 26.
Fucking wild.
Yeah.
Oh man, video games used to be so weird. We used to literally some of the best games in history don't end.
I mean, that was the thing about them, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what else I did since we're talking about video games? NES Batman by Sunsoft. I've owned that game since I was 5 years old. It was given to me by my friend Lauren. When I moved away, he gave me his copy of Batman. I finally beat that over the past week. So that felt pretty good.
Wild, man.
I could never get past the 4th level boss because it doesn't show you're doing damage when you hit it. And that I didn't know what to do as a kid. Like, I'm like, how do I hurt you?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah, I keep hitting those weird moments in RPG where I'm just like, I feel like I feel like I finished this game, but I don't remember this part. And then something will happen. I'll be like, okay, well, I remember this part. So clearly I got to this at some point. So like, I'm just having those weird kind of moments of like rediscovering late game stuff and that for me, because I think that like it's rare that I've finished this game whenever I play it. I usually play it for about 2 or 3 weeks and then put it down, but I'm so far into it now that like I got to finish it.
see, if you don't finish the Mario RPG, I will be mad at you. All
I
you have to do is Bowser's Keep in the factory.
yeah. Like I said, I'm so deep into it now. It'd be
And you
silly
got the
not to finish
lazy
it.
shell. Did you get the lazy shell, or are you just working towards it?
No, I mean, I got it. I gave that man his fertilizer, that fertilizer brained man.
That guy's so fantastic. The Rosetown Gardener is one of my favorite RPG NPCs ever. He's
He
so
does like
excited.
he does like the super speed talk and the
Yeah.
music speed up and all that. Yeah, it is a goofy ass scene for sure. Yeah, I just can't believe how much more I'm finding myself falling in love with this game yet again on like my third or fourth time venturing into it. Like it's just it's been so it's been so refreshing to be able to play an RPG again that is just adorable and fun.
I mean, there's a reason why people keep saying they want a sequel to that game specifically.
Hmm.
And it's why Paper Mario and the Mario and Luigi series get close, but don't really scratch the itch.
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly that. Like Paper Mario got really, really close at the beginning of this year, and I think that that's why I think I'm so hell bent on getting through this run of this one is because it was so close to this, but it just never quite hit this. This is just too good.
Nice. Awesome. I'd like to finish up my review of Guardians of the Galaxy,
Oh yeah,
if
so
that's
after last
allowed.
week, yeah, let's talk.
So I stayed up till 5 a.m. this morning. I got to time travel. That's fun. Can I tell you the
Yeah.
cool thing about turning back your clocks in the modern world? Will being the only person who was awake because he's in Australia, which is 16 hours ahead of me. At 1:59, I sent him a text message saying about to time travel, and then so it says as the timestamp 1:59 p.m. on November 7th, right?
Hmm.
And then I send him another text message right when it turns over to 2, and then immediately flips back to 1. So I sent him like it looks like I sent him a time a message from the future because now I'm texting him from the past. It
So
was
easily
the
abused.
dumbest. It felt so good though, and also I sat down. It was fully my intent Friday night, right? I'm done with work. I don't really have anything. Dale watched a whale this weekend. She she babysat a whale,
Oh,
like because they have new ones coming in and they don't want to leave them like unsupervised. So
okay.
they ask for volunteers of people who work at the aquarium to watch these whales and stay with these whales. And she's like, that seems like a cool thing to do, right? Put it on my resume, say that I did it. And the only one that was available, because it's like volunteering at a food kitchen on Thanksgiving, right? Where you
Hmm.
need to make reservations. Everybody wants to watch the whales, Eugene. Um, the only one that was available was 3 a.m. this past Saturday.
Mm,
So usually on Fridays, that's like our big gaming night. We sit down and we play through like a new game or we do like co-op stuff. So it's a good time. But knowing that like she went to bed at 7 o'clock so that she could be awake to babysit the whale at 3 a.m. I'm like,
right.
it is my intention to sit down and finish Guardians of the Galaxy this Friday night. And the first chapter that I played was so emotionally draining that I stopped after I finished chapter 11.
Oh man.
Like, I have not, you know that I'm like not really a story guy when it comes to games. The story in Guardians of the Galaxy completely connected with me. It is about the Church of Universal Truth and them offering the promise of fulfillment to the galaxy. But because they're space magic, that promise of fulfillment actually shows them visions of the whatever they want. And in the 11th chapter, spoilers for the Guardians of the Galaxy game, Drax succumbs to that promise. So as the rest of the Guardians, you have to convince him that that's not the way to do it. That like it's not real. It's meant to be enticing, but you're living in the past. So you have to go find Mantis, and then Mantis allows you to actually mind meld with him. And the stuff that you see inside of his head, like, it was heavy, heavy stuff.
Fuck,
to the
man.
point where I'm like, I need to take a breather. I can't keep doing this.
Understood. Yeah, man. Jeez.
Right. So then I sat down last night, same time as I did on Friday, and I'm like, all I'm doing tomorrow is going to Mooby's and recording episodes of this airport, but I want to finish this game. Like, I'm so into it, and I'm like, this is my uninterrupted time to play it. So I played from 11 till 5 a.m., including the fallback, right, to finish the game. And it is such a good experience. Like, the story is good. The way that they, like, the final boss fight is so Guardians of the Galaxy as their modern iteration exists. In terms of, like, we're not going to be able to beat this guy, so let's just annoy him into submission.
Yeah.
Really, just really, really good. My one complaint is the penultimate fight just feels like generic bullet spongy fight. And I don't think I would feel that way about it if I hadn't gotten him down to like one more hit would have killed him and lost. And then like just realizing how absurd the entire fight is.
Yeah.
4 full like health bars were for him. And between each health bar, he gets a full shield health bar that you need to take down.
Oof.
And the only way to do that is to use the attacks of the other Guardians to make that happen. And then after you do it the first time, he begins incapacitating them. And not like, that's a part of the game, is that like you'll fight guys who have ice beams and you'll have to unfreeze them in order to have them helping you again. But like just straight out, he shuts off the lights in the room. And so you can't give orders to them because you can't see them. And I'm like, well, that's fun. But then also you can't use Star-Lord's moves either. Like, it just felt very video gamey in a game that didn't feel video gamey for most of it. So, like, it sucked that, like, that penultimate fight felt so out of place for the rest of the game. But then the final fight was, like, spot on. This is Guardians of the Galaxy style.
Awesome.
Plus, one of the bosses is Fing Fang Foom. Like, you fight Fing Fang Foom. And,
That's
like,
amazing.
That's incredible. And that fight was also, like, really good, understanding the character, understanding how these 5 people would go up against something like that. So, it's a good time. It's a good experience. It's definitely better than the Avengers experience, right? If the fact that Square's name is on both of those games was a turnoff to you. Definitely worth trying. And like, I'm close to the platinum. Like, it's not a crazy platinum. I just need to find some collectibles that I missed. So I'll probably do the cleanup on that. But I don't know. It's exciting. It was fun to play the game and for it to kind of live up to the hype that I had for it in my head.
Yeah.
Is where it comes down.
I'm glad. I'm glad that this one has worked out so well, and I'm hoping to get my hands on it at some point. It's one of those ones where I don't know if I want to rush out to get it now or wait until I've got a PS5.
I'd wait
but
for
I don't
the
know when that'll ever...
PS5. I know that like the good news is that they have ramped up production on them. I don't know if that means that it's the same quality, but they did have an announcement this week that it's going to be easier to get the PS5s now going forward. They hope, right? At least beginning by 2022. They hope that it won't be they show up and they disappear.
Man, we'll see. Maybe this time next year I'll finally have one in my hands, but until then...
Yeah, I don't know if I would try like this game on the PS4. I don't know how it's going to look on last-gen hardware.
Yeah.
Because so much of it like takes advantage of the stuff. And even on the next-gen stuff, there were like weird stutters and skips.
Yeah.
So
no, it sounds like it's a great little game. It's not fair. You spent what did you spend 40 something hours on this game?
I'd probably say like 25, but yeah.
Yeah, but it sounds like it's a great experience, but one that is worth waiting until it's done right. So.
And the nice thing is that it's like a single player experience, so it's probably not going to change that much from
Yeah.
right now when it
They're
releases.
not going to shut the servers off in a year, and so the
Yeah,
game will be literally unplayable, right? Yeah, no.
exactly. Which, speaking of Avengers, right, the big news this week is that Spider-Man is finally coming to the PlayStation versions of it on 11/30.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, get him at Sony, because it's the only place you can.
Uh, clapping.
I can't
Beautiful.
believe that is still a thing with everything that's happened with that game. The fact that they did not relent and just give everybody Spider-Man is just kind of a mea culpa. Like, it has to be the Sony side of
It's
things.
the Sony side. Sony owns the character, so why would they give him up?
Sony's just not letting it happen.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that too many perfect pieces had to fall into place for this kind of nonsense to still be a problem in 2021.
Yeah.
But here we are.
I'm just happy because there were people who were like dead set on winter as the release date. We're not getting it till after the movie comes out. We're not getting it till January of next year. And I'm like, no, I'm thinking that the way the timeline is written, they have a Hawkeye event that happens after the release of Spider-Man. So Hawkeye comes out the 24th of November. Spider-Man's got to come out sometime in November for that to work. Right?
Right.
And then Hawkeye, that event's not going to happen until the show is over because they don't want to do spoilers in the game, but they want to give a full experience. So, trust me, I think we're going to see Spider-Man in November. And last day of November still counts as far as I'm concerned, right? And I'm going to look like a fool when it's delayed because it will probably be delayed. But they have released footage of what he looks like in the game. I haven't checked that out, but I did get notification of that this morning. So I am very excited for it. This is not the reason why I got the game, but I am happy that because I got it on PlayStation, I'm going to get to see what that's like.
A number of locations in that game, and this is going to be the thing, right? Is that he's going to have to flip his web and just connect to nothing, right? Like are they going to limit him in his playability in those open fields?
I don't know.
It's oh man. Yeah, I think part of the reason that they're not too quick to release to like push it to go to the character onto other systems is I'm wondering if maybe Spider-Man breaks the game. And Sony was like, he's got to be in it, and they were like, all right, but if we put him in it, you're the only one that's getting him because he breaks everything.
I mean, you say that, but Iron Man can do whatever the fuck he wants. So can Thor.
What do you mean Iron Man can what is the comparison to Peter's dependency on being in an area in which there are high towers?
Okay, I got you. You're using break the game in the different sense than I was using break the game.
No, I don't mean break the game for the good where you can like do all sorts of crazy shit that's like fun because like this is no. I mean literally like breaking immersion to the point where like as a player you're just like, all right, this is just silly now. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean that's always the Spider-Man problem though, right?
Yes.
Where do his webs go?
I don't disagree. I mean, it's like talking about the Superman problem whenever you talk about like Superman in video games and movies and stuff. It's just like at the end of the day, a motherfucker can do anything. So like, what do you put up against him that's interesting for this particular medium? And that's what I mean with Spider-Man is like throwing him in as a late ad that's only going to show up on one system really does not ring to me that they're going to be able to do much justice to that character. You know what I mean? Like they can't tell deep, fascinating storylines that do anything big to the world if it's not going to show up in two other versions of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's going to have probably an isolated storyline that like exists in semi-existent areas already.
Yeah,
I can't imagine him fighting on the tundra.
Right, and then him being brought into the multiplayer, there's just going to have to just be some just give-in video game bullshit that he just does what he does despite the fact that there's no buildings or even trees around in most of those areas, and he's still just able to fly through the air just because they can't change the physics of the game for one version. They can't change the world of the game for one version of the game.
Yeah. Hear me out. Water vapor is collected into the sky where it turns into clouds, which like there's some ice physics going on in clouds. He's connecting to the smallest particles of ice in every cloud. No,
I'm
no
so
good.
so angry right now.
Tony Stark invented a little droid for him.
They want to impress me. Okay, that is something that I would hate, but I can definitely see them doing. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
If they really if they really want to impress me, Spider-Man can't always use his webs. That would be
That would be
you know what I mean?
fantastic,
Make him
yeah.
like a Black Widow-esque like run around character that if there is trees around or if there are buildings around, he's good to go. But the second he finds himself in these areas where he can't use webs, like give it a shot distance. Maybe he throws one out and it doesn't connect to anything, that kind of shit. You know, like that would be impressive to me.
That would be impressive. And I really feel like, I mean, one of the reasons that Black Widow was brought into the Avengers anyway is to have a Spider-Man-esque character on the Avengers after the movies hit in 2002. And it's like, well, we can't use Spider-Man because now Sony has the rights to it. So Black Widow, that's like a spider, right? And we'll have her use stingers that are like web shooters, and we'll have her flipping around on like a grappling hook.
Yeah,
like
and she's the stealthy ranger. Like it makes total sense. Like, yeah.
And I mean, I feel like she already has like the grappling hook thing in game, so it would like I imagine that that's what you build his web swinging on. But I would really love it if, you know, Spider-Man, you're going to be working with us on this stuff. We go to a lot of, let's say, non-urbanized areas. So I invented you 2 drones, and they fly up high in the air, and you can shoot your webs at them using your spider sense. You'll always be able to know where they are.
Webs wherever. I mean, like I said, it's not a narrative thing I love, but it's definitely a narrative thing that would fit into the story they've told so far.
It's a narrative thing they would do. It's the problem with it. I think my biggest issue with it is that all imagery of him that has shown up is him in his costume from the 2018 PlayStation game.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, is it that Peter Parker?
Is
like,
that going to be the world
is
that they're
that
going to claim this is a part of?
Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's just, I'm excited for the insanity, and I can't wait to report back on it once it becomes real. Probably on December 6th. Let's just be honest. I imagine it's going to get delayed a week. Somehow, some way.
I can't even I can't even fathom what this is going to look like in a couple of weeks here for this game.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Way to keep me on my toes, Avengers, for an entire year and a half now.
How do they do it? How do they keep just when you think you're out, I pull you back in?
If only they could get me to actually play the game once in a while, but that's fine.
If you hadn't installed it, I bet you would probably still no, honestly, and I can't even tell you that you should play it. Because going from the PS4 version to the PS5 version and then trying to go back to the PS4 version, I'm like, oh no, this is bad. Like there, I understand why this game became playable for me once I upgraded it. Because having to wait longer than most of the levels for the game to load, that's not fun.
No. You spend more time on loading screens than you do playing the game, and when you do play the game, it doesn't make up for it. Because you can say the same thing about Destiny, but Destiny's lucky. the reason that Destiny wins that gambit is the game is also very fun to play. So, like I don't forgive its sins, but it's easier for me to have a good time with it, at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. Okay. Anything else that you want to talk about? I think I've covered everything that I had on my plate.
No, man, just getting ready for the holidays. We finished up Halloween and Halloween movie watching, and we're now moving on to getting together some stuff for Christmas. I think we get the Hallmark Channel just by default now in our Pluto package that comes with our Vizio TV. So there's going to be a lot of that kind of watching. Nothing too crazy though.
Excellent. I would like to bring a little bit of attention to Disney Plus Day. I feel like it's important to mention that this coming Friday, November 12th, is Disney Plus Day. And I think it's Disney Plus Day because that's when Disney Plus originally premiered, right? I think it first came to us on the 12th of November. So it's like an anniversary thing.
Yeah, and it's getting a bunch of stuff added to it, including
Shang-Chi
and
Jungle Cruise. Yeah.
Jungle Cruise, yeah.
So, in true Say Report fashion, promise that we're finally going to talk about Shang-Chi next episode.
Sweet, man.
Because
I'm excited.
I have taken off the day to celebrate Disney Plus Day properly, and
Have you done Jungle Cruise yet?
Nope. So I'm going to do both of those on Friday.
Oh, I'm very excited to talk about Shang-Chi, but holy crap, man! I don't want to talk about. I legitimately want to wait until you see Jungle Cruise to say any more. The end.
All right. So next week, the Disney Plus report, as I've gone down, as I'll be celebrating Disney Plus Day. So if you also have Disney Plus and you've been waiting for them to come to that to enjoy them, it's not really homework, but know that we're going to watch them and we're going to talk about them. I'm also going to be rewatching Say Anything, because it came up on the Saturday Classic Movies for the Deckers.
Oh, man. Okay, man. Let's talk about some Say Anything next week.
So, Shang-Chi, Jungle Cruise, and Say Anything. Those are bullet points. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be all we talk about, but they're going to be addressed. All right. So if there's nothing else to add, if you would like to get in touch with us, you could tell Siege some other RPGs that are similar to Super Mario RPG. I know that he is looking to get that itch scratched. He's on Twitter at Siege versus the World.
And if you have any convention nightmare stories, reach out to Devon at Devon D. Decker and let him know, because we love talking shop when it comes to that stuff.
Oh, man. I mean, like, it just stinks, because I had nothing but good experiences at conventions, and then this was just a reminder of all the negative ones this morning. Scary stuff. All right. Well, William, please bring us home. Have a good one, folks.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devon Decker and Stephen Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.